Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Germany once again, and we're going to continue on with this little mini-series of German reviews that I've been doing for you over the last few videos. As I've mentioned in previous German videos, the main idea behind this little mini-series is to kind of familiarise myself a little bit more with styles that I haven't really covered on the channel too much, and I've been enjoying it so far. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is from another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. These guys are once again very recognisable in their local area, and they are supposed to be the biggest producer of this particular style of beer that we're going to have a look at today. So needless to say, I'm really curious to see how this one's going to turn out. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Köln, or Cologne as you would say in English, and we're going to have a look at my first beer from Privat Brauerei Heinrich Reissdorf, and that will of course be the Reissdorf Kölsch. So this one comes in at 4.8% ABV, and I think you know what style this one is, of course. Lovely little top label on this one as well, and this is, I have to say, a pretty damn tall bottle, but very, very distinctive actually, quite different from what you'll normally find from German breweries. In fact, I don't think I've ever come across a German brewery with a bottle this particular shape. So yeah, kudos to them for doing something a wee bitty different. But yeah, definitely cool to have a look at another one of the very popular Kölsch beers. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what it's all about. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Privat Brauerei Heinrich Reissdorf. Hopefully they've got a few other beers that I can look at actually. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their things, so I'll need to check that out. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries, and you'll find this one in the German playlist along with a number of other things. But yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at my brewery notes. So, to tell you a little bit about Privat Brauerei Heinrich Reissdorf. So, the roots of the Reissdorf brewery go back to 1894, when the tailor Heinrich Reissdorf founded a top fermenting brewery in September on Severinstrasse. So, he ran the brewery until his death in 1901, at which point his wife Gertrude took over the management of the company until she in turn handed it over to her sons in 1908. But just prior to the First World War, the brewery's annual output was around 15,000 hectolitres per year, and after the war they actually had to switch from using steam boilers to electric boilers because the French occupied the Ruhr, and because of that there was a shortage of coal. But in 1923 they expanded their range to include lager beers, namely a Pils, a Märzen and an Export, and then in 1936 they became the first brewery to start bottling the Kölsch style of beer. But during the Second World War, the brewery was about 90% destroyed by the Allied bombing raids, but they did manage to start brewing again in the middle of July 1945, albeit with a lower wort content beer. But in the British occupation zone, brewing full beers wasn't actually permitted, and so it wasn't until 1949 that they could brew higher gravity beers, and it was at this point that they properly reintroduced the Pilsner, the Export and the Kölsch. So using the slogan Echte Kölsch, or original Kölsch, kind of real Kölsch as well, I could guess it could mean in English, but at the beginning of the German economic miracle, when they introduced this slogan, it really helped them position themselves very well in the market, and so the Kölsch beer became very, very popular across Köln. Once again, these guys were one of the drivers of that, and of course it did them very well for their own for their own market standing, if you like, and so they decided to focus their production efforts on this particular beer. But in 1986, they were one of the 23 companies that organised the Kölner Brauerei Verbund, the Cologne Brewers Association, and they signed the Kölsch Convention, which regulated who could actually call their beer Kölsch. Of course, you know, if you're brewing a Kölsch in, say, Scotland, for example, which has been done, you would have to call it Kölsch style officially rather than calling it Kölsch. But they eventually ran out of space on the site at Severinsviertel, and so they moved production to Rodenkirchen from 1998 until 2002, and the old building on Severinstrasse 51, 51 auf Deutsch, this was demolished and a new brewery was constructed, which opened in 2009, and this new facility operates under the name Zum Alten Brauhaus. But today, this brewery employs around 80 people, and it's the best-selling brand of Kölsch beer in the city, from what I understand, and they're brewing around 650,000 hectolitres of beer per year. But yeah, that I think is everything I can really tell you about Privat Brauerei Heinrich Reissdorf. I do apologise for any bad German pronunciations in this video. I try, but it's not always perfect. But yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and actually have a little look at this beer itself. So I'll let you have a wee look at the artwork on the label and things before we open it up. There you can see the Brauerei Heinrich Reissdorf crest at the top there, which looks very, very nice. You can see the little top label a bit more closely. The light doesn't like the shininess of this label, I have to say, or the camera doesn't, rather than the light. But there you can see the bottle cap, which looks quite nice as well. So I need to keep that one. And this beer does also have the European Union's geographical protection symbol on the back there, which you'll find on many things in Germany. You know, Kölsch beer, Alt beer, Bavarian beer, lots of different things. But yeah, a 4.8% Kölsch beer, this one. Remember that technically speaking, Kölsch, it is an ale. And the technical difference between a lager and ale, lagers tend to use bottom fermenting yeasts and they ferment at lower temperatures, maybe 8 to 12 degrees Celsius. Ales ferment at higher temperatures, usually about 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. When it comes to Kölsches though, these are usually quite low temperature fermenting ales from what I understand. I'm not sure of the exact temperature, but yeah, in terms of the flavour profile, a Kölsch is quite similar to a German Helles lager in terms of the flavour, but there are distinct things. The mouthfeel is a little bit thicker, they have some of the bready characteristics can be a little bit different as well. But yeah, usually if you're comparing these two styles of beer, I would say it's mainly the mouthfeel that's going to tell you whether a beer is a Kölsch or not. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see how we get on. The Reissdorf Kölsch at 4.8% ABV should be really nice. So, here we are. Let's get this guy out into the glass. Let's see what it's all about. We'll try and get a good head on this one. That's what we want from these German beers. Now remember, the Kölsch steins that they would normally use would be a little bit taller and slimmer than this one. The Kölsch, probably a Kölsch stein, is about the same size as this bottle, to be honest with you. I don't have a stein that is that tall, which is why I'm using my Pilsner Urquell glass. But you do want a glass with these beers that has a thicker rim to it so that you take a bigger gulp, because these beers are intended to be very sessionable. But I think I did get a fairly nice pour on this one. So before the head disappears, we can see that it poured with about 1.5 fingers of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head. It looks very nice, I have to say. Some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, but some nice foamy ones just going a little bit above that. But it does look pretty nice. I'll just let you guys have a little look at the foam on the head there. It does look pretty damn good, I have to say. But in terms of the colour of this one, I think it's given us exactly what we would expect of a Kölsch. You've got this lovely kind of pale golden straw colour, actually. Light little bit of natural haze to it, but it is pretty clear, to be honest with you. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass at the bottom, and a few bubbles just kind of going up there steadily toward the surface of the liquid. But yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer, and any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will of course affect that as well. But yeah, it does look pretty damn nice, I have to say. I do really like the appearance of this this particular beer. So I don't think we need to say anything else about this one in terms of its appearance. It looks exactly as you would expect from the Kölsch style. Let's have a wee look at the aroma then and see what this one is going to have in store for us. Oh yeah, it smells very, very nice. Yeah, like I said, the Kölsch is a style that I haven't explored all that much, and I do want to go to Köln to look at the Kölsches, Dusseldorf to do the Alp beers, and Dortmund to do the Dortmund Helles beers at some point. I want to go and visit these breweries, restaurants and things like that, and film out and about videos. So that is a plan I do have for the channel at some point in the fairly near future. But yeah, aroma wise, this is very, very nice, and it gives you everything you'd expect. So you've got the lovely kind of bready smoothness out of this one, you've got that little bit of hoppy character, and then just also a little bit of dry fruitiness. I mean, these are all characteristics that you would expect of a Kölsch ale. So yeah, let's look at this one. Break the aroma down and describe it a wee bit more in depth. So the backbone of the beer is absolutely, you know, that fresh white bready bread crust in there. So for me, yeah, that backbone is absolutely lovely. The fresh white bready bread crust that you get out of this one is quite typical of this style, to be honest with you. It smells as if it's almost like straight out the bakery, you know, a little bit of flour on it or something like that. For me, that is the backbone of this one. On top of that, you start to get a little bit of an almost kind of crackery character, like Jacob's cream cracker. I'm not sure how good a descriptor that is for Germans that will be watching this video, but yeah, a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker. There's a very slight little hint of woodiness in this one for me, but that's very, very minimal. And then above that, you start to get all the nice kind of white bready characteristics out of this one. So yeah, lovely little bit of that fresh white bready just goodness. I always loved German bread when I was living in Heidelberg. So yeah, for me, the German breadiness that you get out of this one is just absolutely lovely. Yeah, aroma wise, I think this one is really, really very, very nice. On top of the kind of white bready characteristics, for me, there's a little bit of it. There is a little touch of sweetness to this one. You know, it has a little tiny hint of, I don't know, could you call it honey, or if it's just more of a biscuity character, you know, like McVitie's digestive biscuity notes. That's what's coming out of this one for me. Yeah, if I sugar it up, I'm getting a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit, and then that more oily, sweet kind of biscuity character coming out of the beer as well. So yeah, I mean, aroma-wise, I think this is pretty damn nice in that sense. Yeah, I like the. I do like that it does actually have a little tiny hint of like caramel or honey or something in the middle of the nose, but then yeah, it does become more of a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, I think the way that this one goes together is pretty damn nice actually. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I think that covers the malty side of things, to be quite honest with you. So let's go on to the hoppy side of the beer. The hoppy side of the beer is kind of pretty much what you would expect. It will be using Hallertau or Tettnang hops in this one. You know, it's got, I think, just going by the aroma, I would say that it's very much like, you know, it is very much kind of along, yeah, it is very much kind of along the lines of it is very much kind of along the lines of a just a kind of smooth Mittelfrüh type character out of this one. It doesn't come across as being, you know, too bitter and too floral as you might get if you use some of the slightly higher alpha acid German hops like Pearl and Hercules and so on. It's just really nice in that sense. There's a little touch of earthiness to it, there's a little bit of herbal character, and of course you get a wee touch of kind of floral aromaticity, and also some nice kind of brighter grassiness out of this one too. So yeah, the way that the green component goes together is very, very nice. On the fruity side of things, for me, it's given you a little bit of, yeah, for me, it's given you a little bit of a, yeah, it's given you a little bit of a kind of, like oily pear, to be honest with you, a little bit of kind of sultana or something like that as well, you know, dry white green grapes. It's got a little bit of that going on, but definitely oily pear, little touch of an apricot-y sort of thing, and then you also have a nice little bit of, yeah, you also have a nice little bit of just, you know, like gooseberry or something like that, maybe fresh green apple sitting on top of it. But these are all things that we've seen in the Kölschs that we've reviewed on the channel already, actually. But yeah, I've been impressed with this beer style. It is nice to kind of come across this one and actually explore it a little bit more in depth and appreciate it a wee bit more, because the Kölsch, it's not that popular. It's not the most popular style of German beer, to be honest with you. It's usually the Pilsners and the Helles Lagers that get out there a little bit more. Some of the Doppelbocks too, to be honest with you. So you don't see too many craft beer shops stocking any Kölsch other than Früh Kölsch. But yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think we should have a look at this one now and see what it's all about. So this one is the Reissdorf Kölsch from Privat Brauerei Heinrich Reissdorf from Köln, a 4.8% Kölsch ale, Kölsch beer, whatever we're going to call it. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers, prost. Yeah, pretty damn good. Again, for me, you know, as I've said on the channel many times before, I'm a huge fan of the German Helles lagers, and I really got into those when I was living and studying in Heidelberg. But this was, as I say, you know, this is the thing with German beer. It's very, very regional. So getting a Kölsch in Heidelberg was pretty difficult, actually, even though you're, what, maybe 2-3 hours away. You're only 2 or 3 hours away from Köln. You just didn't find them that often. And to be honest, I don't think the Kölsch as a style makes its way outside of that area too much, to be honest with you, other than, you know, certain exports. The Kölsch as a style is actually quite popular amongst Japanese brewers. In my experience, there probably are more Kölsch beers in Japan than there actually are in Köln itself, putting the technicality, of course, of being able to call it Kölsch aside. But yeah, there are many, many GB breweries in Japan brewing Kölsch because they learned to brew beer from German breweries. But yeah, I have to say, because I like the Helles Lager, it's a very easy style to get into this one. I have to say it is nice. The main difference for me, like I said before, is that these beers just feel a little bit more kind of oily, and they feel a little bit kind of more, they just feel a little bit heavier in their mouthfeel, to be honest with you. They're not quite as crisp as the Helles Lagers, but they are very kind of smooth and easy drinking still. So yeah, very easy style of beer for me to get into, to be honest with you. Yeah, let's actually just have a wee look at this one and just break it down a bit more in depth and describe the flavour for you more in depth, as we always do. So yeah, this beer gives you everything you would want from the Kölsch. You've got a bit of the kind of drier bready notes, you've got a bit of the smoother side of things, you've got a bit of sweetness, good little bit of hoppy character as well, a little bit of oily fruitiness, but still just a really nice, easy drinking beer. Middle third of your palate then. For me, The middle third of your palate in this beer is really quite nice. The backbone, and I would say compared to the other Kölsch that I've had so far, I think this one feels a little bit wetter and a little bit slicker, actually. That's the first observation I make about this one. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, you can feel that you've got a lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust coming out of this one. So that forms the backbone of the beer. Further forward on that, middle third of your palate, you get a little touch of woodiness, for example. Yeah, there's a little touch, a very slight touch of woodiness there, but not too much. So you've got the fresh white bready bread crust, a little touch of woodiness further forward, and then there's maybe a very slight crackery note in there as well, but that's very, very minimal. That comes out a little bit more into the aftertaste with this beer, I would say. But then above that, you get a slight wholemeal brown bready layer coming out of this one, which I think is great. And yeah, you get a little bit of that wholemeal kind of brown bready layer coming out of this one. And then above that, you start to get the more typical fluffy white bready layer. And I've said this, I'm a huge fan of German malts. Just the distinctive breadiness that you get out of these. It just almost has this little bit of sweetness to it, which I think is great, actually. So, yeah, the lovely, yeah, as I say, little wholemeal brown bready layer in there, fluffy white bready layer on top, and that kind of grows in density the more that you drink of this beer as well, which is quite interesting. And then you can feel above that white bready layer, you start to get a little bit of the, you start to get a little bit more of the kind of sweeter side of the beer. So for me, this beer isn't overly sweet, and even within the kind of style category, it's not overly sweet. But yeah, you absolutely have a little bit of that, like above the bready character, you've got a little circle in the middle of your palate there. So in the dead centre of your tongue, you can feel there's a wee touch of like Werther's Original. No, not Werther's Original. There's a little bit of a more kind of concentrated, biscuity character coming out of this one. And then as you move further out of that one, kind of further afield, you have as you move further afield out of that one, you get a little bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of it too. So, yeah, I think that describes the middle third of the palate, to be honest with you. You do get little hints of like a Werther's Original, or Werther's, as it would be in German. Quite easy to forget that those are German sweets, actually. But yeah, you do get a little bit of that Werther's Original flavour coming out of the beer further into the aftertaste too. But this beer has a really nice balance between the dryness, the kind of smoothness in the middle, and the sweetness. So yeah, as I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I do like that about this one, I have to say that. Yeah, so we'll have a little look at the... I think that covers everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate. Let's have a little look on the back third of the palate. And as I've quite often said, the back third of your palate gives you similar flavours, just at different kind of intensities, to be honest with you. But yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a kind of bready build up in there. The wholemeal brown bready character in the base, and the kind of more sweet white bready character just coming out above that. And then, yeah, on the back third of the palate, again, you have a little bit of that kind of fresh white bready bread crust coming out of this one. Then you can feel above that, you get more, you have a little bit of the cracker, of course, and the bread crust feels a little bit drier. Same with the cracker. Then above that, you get the kind of wholemeal brown bready character in there, which is nice. Yeah, big, fluffy kind of wholemeal brown bready character, which is great. And then above that, you get a nice kind of, you can feel that that brown bready layer is just a little bit taller and a little bit more airy, and then the same with the white bready layer above that, and you can feel some of the kind of drier aspects of the biscuit just creeping over the top of that malty part of the back third of your palate. But then above everything else, you start to get the, you start to get some of the yeasty character out of the beer. So for me, the yeasty side of this one, it's quite, yeah, I would say the yeasty side of this beer is quite interesting. So above everything else, you have a little bit, it's like a more dense, wholemeal brown bready kind of ball type thing. So yeah, more dense wholemeal brown bready ball type thing coming out of this one. And then on top of that, you have, you've got within that you've got a little bit of woodiness, a little bit of graininess, and then it's kind of wrapped in a wee touch of, it's wrapped in a little bit of a kind of honeycomb type flavour. So yeah, I really like how that goes together in this one. The yeasty character just adds a wee bit more depth to the beer, but definitely on that back third of the palate you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way this one goes together, I think, is really quite nice. So in terms of the hoppy side of things, then I think we can move over onto that. The back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, you get a little touch of herbal character, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, you do the herbal character and earthiness actually spreads forward a fair wee bit, but then you start to get the nice floral aromaticity toward the front corners of your tongue. But round the front curve of your palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say. But yeah, the hoppy character in this beer is quite nice, and it just adds a little bit of kind of freshness, crispness to the beer. But obviously the Kölsch as a style is not quite as crisp as your Helles lagers, I would say. But yeah, the green component, you get more wetness out of the grassiness the further into the aftertaste you go with it too. But yeah, it's interesting for sure. On the front third of your palate, then let's move on to the kind of fruity side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. So yeah, nice little bit of kind of bready build up. There's a good little bit of kind of wholemeal brown bready character in there, some white bread sitting on top of it. Then the base of that front third of your palate, again, you've got the bread crust, you've got the wholemeal brown bread, you've got a little bit of kind of cracker sitting above it, and then you've got a nice, then you've got the nice kind of oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer sitting on top of all of that. So that is, again, really quite nice. But yeah, let's look at the fruity side of the beer then, just to round off the flavour. So, the flavour of the beer, the fruity side of the beer, sorry, is really similar to what I was expecting it would be from the aroma. At the back of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of a kind of, you have a little bit of that, I would say, kind of sultana, dry white green grapey note in there. As you move further forward with that, it dries out a little bit, but as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, you've got a little bit of oily pear in there. You've got a nice kind of, you have got a nice little bit of apricot, I would say, as well. And then as you go further forward, you do get a wee bit more kind of, I would say that you get a nice little bit of a kind of, there is a little bit of gooseberry in there on the front half of that front third of your palate, and a little bit of a fresh green apple just sitting above that. So yeah, the way it goes together, I think, is really quite nice. Yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me. I really do like how this one pieces together. But yeah, I think it's pretty damn good. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with this one, I have to say that. Yeah, I think we can round off the whole review then with just a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So yeah, I mean, for me, the mouthfeel of this beer, it's kind of top end of light bodied for sure. The carbonation does have a wee bit of crispness in this one, which is quite interesting. It does give you a little bit of that, but overall I would say this one is a little bit wetter and a little bit kind of slicker in comparison to the other Kölsches that we've tried so far. In terms of the IBU count in this beer, I would say that it's fairly standard. It seems to be about 20-ish IBUs, maybe 25. There's a little bit of that. There is a little bit more bitterness and floral character comes out of this beer into the aftertaste. On the malty side of things, yeah, you've got a little bit of dryness underneath, a little bit of smoothness in the middle. Then you've also got some really nice. You also have some really nice kind of sweetness sitting there on top in the fruity side of the beer. Again, it's a little bit oily, but it does give you a nice little bit of dryness the further into the aftertaste that you go. But yeah, I think the way this beer goes about its business is it's really quite nice. So yeah, I like this one. I do like this. So yeah, this one was the Reissdorf Kölsch, 4.8% Kölsch beer from Privat Brauerei Heinrich Reissdorf, one of the very popular Kölsch beers from Köln over in Germany. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Reissdorf as well, and we will see about returning to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out their social media. Do let me know some other cool beers that I should check out in the comment section below, and we'll see about making that happen over the next little while. But until then, slàinte, skål, cheers and prost.